this program today. I know that it's a Friday, and I know that schedules are very, very busy. So for any of you who are able to join us, we really do appreciate it, and appreciate your patience with the little technical difficulty today. Just to kind of give you a sense before you get started, I don't have a slide that has the little icons to navigate, if you have to raise your hand or if you have a chat. But many of you have participated in webinars and go to meetings with us. So as a webinar, every one of you are automatically muted. So if you have a question or you want to speak, there's just a couple of things that we want to ask of you. Now that you're on this, you should have a little navigation bar, and there'll be an opportunity to raise your hand, and it has like a little yellow hand that's on the little navigation bar. And there's also an open area where it says chat. You can just open that up and type a question to either the organizers or certainly to the whole audience. And then Mary Cruz is joining us, and she's going to help us navigate those questions. Or if there is a hand raised, we will go ahead and select your name, unmute you so you can go ahead and ask your question or contribute. This entire webinar is really just a casual conversation to let you know, how thankful we are for having you work with us on this really great program, and then just to give you a lot of great information and going forward. So that said, I think, Carla, I'm going to go ahead and give this over to you and get us started.
Thanks, Tina. Welcome, fellows. Hello, and thank you again for agreeing to serve as chapter champions. As fellows, we've all invested a lot of time and energy in SMPS, mostly starting at the chapter level. But as I said in my very first email as Fellows Delegate, our journey doesn't end when we become a fellow. But it will if you let it. You just have to ask yourself, I'm a fellow, now what? This all started 4 years ago when I attended a Seattle chapter luncheon, and I walked into a room full of strangers. I knew 2 people out of the entire group, and I was a stranger to most of them. After all, I hadn't been doing much of anything at the chapter level for years because there was no real role for me anymore, and that was the problem. The programs didn't appeal to me, and I had no board or committee responsibilities, so I just faded into the background, as did the other 4 fellows in my chapter. That's when I decided to step up and do something to make a change, and like my spiritual advisor, the Donald, I started thinking big. The Chapter Champion program is a big idea that will connect the past with the future. I know that all of you are just as dedicated and just as invested in the success of your chapter as I was back in the day. And you have to admit it felt great back then. But now what? I believe you're going to find that feeling again by serving as a chapter champion, because now you have an important role to fill. I know the Fellows Committee, chaired by Pete Kenley, feels good knowing they're making progress to raise the profile of the Fellows. And the Chapter Champions program is just one of our initiatives, but it came together thanks to the hard work of this smaller subcommittee. The fabulous Miss Julie Lures is our chair. She's cruising the Caribbean right now with 2 other chapter champions, Betty Hearn and Pam Carmen, which it just goes to prove that the friendships that come out of SMPS is what makes our organization so special. Now, if you are on the fence about doing this program, you likely heard from Melissa Lutz or Lori Strickland. They worked really hard to enlist fellows for this program, and they convinced some of you to take on extra fellowless chapters or 2. Double thanks to all of you. Holly Bolton is a chapter delegate and one of our newest fellows. She's on the road visiting chapters all the time, as is Tina Myers. They've touched the chapters more than anyone else, and they do an amazing job, but they can't be everywhere. So they've been big supporters of this program to help us get it going. And if we can take some of the pressure off of them by being a resource to chapter boards, we'll be serving the society well. So let's quickly review our mission. Our objective is to actively engage the SMPS fellows as advisors, mentors, historians, and senior level resources for chapter leadership to support chapter growth and success. It's not our job to take over the management of the chapter, but instead to look for ways to support and guide the board. The contributions you make at the chapter level today are an investment in the future of SMPS as a whole. There are future national leaders, and some will be future fellows. I should mention that I'm a Boomerang board member. I served on the national board back when Lauren McCracken and Randy Tucker presided. It's so different this time around, in large part because the national staff has created so many new resources for the chapters that didn't exist back then. Tina's going to give you a tour of some of those now.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, again, I want to thank every one of you who have agreed to be a part of this group. One of the things that we, and I want to say the entire staff, and especially Mary Cruz and I, since we work so closely with many of our chapters, we are incredibly grateful for the role that you're going to be playing in helping us communicate all the different things that we can do to help our chapters become successful. Many of you have already been, have been on the board recently or have been engaged with the national organization very recently in many ways, and so you might be familiar with some of the things that we're going to talk about. And some of you might have been removed for a while and might find that some of the things we're talking about are a little bit new to you as well. One of the things that, before we go through the items that we want to make sure that you're aware of and can share with our chapters, is that one of the greatest challenges we have is making sure that all of our chapter leaders and our chapter volunteers truly understand the resources that are available to them through the SMPS headquarters and certainly through the board and now you as fellows. We have over 700 volunteers that we have a record on, that we know how they're working through their chapters, we know their positions, we know all kinds of information. Well, what we also know is that they're constantly turning over. Every single year we get so many new names, so all the work we did to get out these messages has to go on year and year. And we are trying to find some of the great ways to make sure that the resources and the things that we can do for them are well communicated. We rely heavily on during our PLS program, getting information to them, the presidents, the incoming presidents, but they're learning a lot of information, and there's so much. So by the time they get back to their chapters, they have to get back to work, and some things are just simply forgotten, and we try to find ways to make sure that they're remembering. But again, there are just so many things that are going on in their lives that are making it a bit of a challenge. So that said, I want to thank you one more time because now you are one of the strategies to help us create the communication and make it much more effective with all of our chapter leaders. So going forward, what we're going to do, and Mary Cruz will be joining me on some of these items, is just to let you know and be aware, not in detail, of some of the ways that we can help our chapters. When you have an opportunity to meet with them, whether you're helping them with a strategic planning session or you're just meeting with them just to kind of talk about the concerns that they have, these are things that you can remind them that, well, did you know that SMPS has the leadership forum at conference, and as we go forward, these are just things that we hope will resonate when you're talking with various chapter leaders and volunteers. So that said, we'll get started with what we have in terms of this is not everything we do, but this is a good list of what we do, of the chapter resources. What you see in front of you right now is an image of a flyer that we send out to all of our chapters. It's readily available so they can have a more thorough list of what they can ask for. One of the things that we always tell our chapters is that even though there's all kinds of things that are listed on this chapter support menu or document, it doesn't mean that we can't help you if it's not there. Sometimes they have some really great ideas or they just need support and they're talking and they think, well, gee, I wish SMPS headquarters or national would help us with this. All they need to do is give us a call and they may be surprised in how we can help them. The items that we in particular want to outline is to make sure that they are well aware of the leadership training programs that we offer, the membership support that we offer, governance, administration, and advice that we can offer, as well as administrative and financial support. With our leadership training, and I can't imagine that most of you aren't already well aware of this, but of course we have PLS, and we're gearing up for that right now. This is a very, very busy time. So PLS is in April of every year, and this is for all of our presidents-elect. And we're always very excited about this. This is an outstanding program, but it is imperative that our presidents-elect join us with this program. So a message that we always ask of or want to ask of you is that even going forward in mid-year, that they always are aware that their new incoming president-elect is prepared to be a part of this every single year, and just keep on talking about it because that really starts the year very well. The Leadership Forum at conference, we have a 2.5 or 3.5 hour program at every annual conference. This is not just for incoming presidents or any one group of leaders. It's for all volunteers, and it's also for volunteers or individuals who may be considering volunteering. So it's kind of a great way for them to be exposed to some of the things that they may have to pay attention to and to get to know what some of those challenges are. We also offer webinars, and this is probably one of the most successful ways that we can really communicate to our volunteers in lots of ways. Mary Cruz alone, I think that she hasn't had a week where she hasn't conducted a webinar on MySMPS, on a new member orientation, or even both of us working with them for their various board meetings. Sometimes they might just have a question, and we are always available to conference in on a call, just because they might have certain questions, and it works out better that way. So they can take advantage of that, or for whatever specific needs they have. Membership recruitment and retention, it's always national responsibility, but we are always going to help our chapters in recruiting and retaining new members. There's a great deal of information in their chapter manual under the membership section and exactly how we can help them. So we want you to gear them toward the manual always with specific questions. But if they say, well, how can National help us? Just always let them know that we do recruitment mailings for them. We will reimburse costs for them. We will make sure that we have all their prospects up to date. We will send out letters on their behalf, because everything that we do for them is certainly going to benefit the national organization overall. We've done telemarketing campaigns, and if they come up with something else, again, that's not on the list, just give us a call and let's see what we can do together to make this happen. Governance, administrative, and financial support, we will help them with bylaws. We will help them modify their bylaws. We will help them understand the rules and the responsibilities of being a member of the board. And we have recently hired Antonio Payne, CPA, who is our new controller, and I cannot tell you how happy we are to have him on board now, because he's already been a great service to our chapters. So now if they have questions on budgets, or if they have questions on their IRS information returns, or whatever it is, he can be the person who's going to be able to help them out. Going forward, I want to make sure that you are well aware of MySMPS, and I think that you already are. But the thing I want to highlight, and some of you might have already experienced this, is that I think it's been, Mary, you might correct me if I'm wrong, over 5 years since we went ahead and even launched MySMPS. Is that about right?
Yes, it was 2008, 2009 timeframe.
Great. And since then, we've had many, almost all of our chapters actively participate, create their own board communities. We ask them to use this as their spot where they can save, archive all of their documents, board documents, minutes, important papers, what have you. And they have been doing that, and it's been great. But what has happened over that 5 years is it's become a little bit longer to get the information. You might feel a little lethargy going on when you're trying to navigate through MySMPS. So we're really excited to introduce, and I think by the summer we'll be able to do that, maybe even by conference, a new platform on MySMPS. It's going to be cleaner. It is going to be faster. The platform is higher logic, and it's going to give us a few more bells and whistles. So we have still some work to do. We don't have everything completely listed for you, but the message here for you as you're working with your chapter volunteers and your chapters is to let them know if they're having questions about it or if they're frustrated in any way. This is still a resource that's going to be available to them, but we're going to be working with them and turning things over into the new platform, and really we promise it's going to be so much better, and it's going to be so much faster, and it's going to be clean and easy to navigate. The Chapter Leaders Update is a newsletter that we put out quarterly, and there's great information in there. There's just basically making sure that during that time frame we're giving information on what's going on with the chapters themselves, and certainly any important national updates that they can capture or can be captured in a newsletter. We also have the chapter manual, and this is probably one of the resources that is not used as often as I wish it was, because there's such great information in here. If anyone on this call has not seen the recent chapter manuals, images are in front of you right now, and we just updated them to the 2012-13, which will be distributed at PLS. But they will also be made available to every volunteer as a PDF and with clickable links to different samples and forms that they need throughout the year. But what's really important about this, and if you can always remember to remind them that, the details that they need, maybe they need information on insurance. Maybe they need to know how to apply for special event insurance or why they might need special event insurance. Or maybe they need to understand the membership fulfillment effort or what constitutes a regular transfer member or an interim member. All of these things in detail and more are thoroughly outlined in each section of the membership, all of the chapter sections of the manual. We have awards recognition and sponsorship, communications, education and certification. This is a great section that identifies even how to put on and the things to consider in putting together a new event. Finance and administration is probably one that they should be referencing often, and governance and strategic planning, and then of course membership. We'll talk more about strategic planning toolkit that we'll be introducing during PLS, but right now these sections are available in great information, and we just hope that you remind them that these are available too. With everything that Carla is sending you, you'll get a copy of this too, and if you have the older ones, if I haven't given her the newer ones, we'll make sure that you have those readily available. Then, of course, we have other kinds of support that we provide to our regional conferences and to the groups who are putting those on. And I think many of you have already been part of this, part of these processes. And Doug Parker, I think you're on the call here, and we have other people who have been very engaged with working with Mary in terms of what we do with our regionals and in the team that puts these together. But again, just like we have for chapter resources and overall support, we have a special outline just for regional conferences and the way we can help them out. And as a reminder, we will always support our regional conferences. We understand that there are many individuals who simply cannot attend annual conference for a variety of reasons. So the next best thing, and some amazing programming goes on at regionals, and certainly we understand that it can be more affordable as well. We want everyone to have a great SMPS experience, and that's why we will always make sure that we are supporting them and giving them whatever they need for us and however we can. So specifically, the regional conferences, the outline in the brochure gives you a little bit more detail, but what we want you to know, if you don't already, is that we always provide staff support and board support. We take care of the cost, the travel, the expenses associated with that. Most often our board is asked to speak or maybe be a keynote, and staff is there to support in whatever way we can. Certainly at the leadership forum, there's always a leadership forum, and one of the things we always ask as a part of this agreement and the support that we offer is that the day before typically is there's time allotted just for a leadership forum, and that includes all of the volunteers in that given regional area, whoever is attending that happens to be a volunteer. It's a chance for us to get together with the leaders, with the staff who happens to be attending, and with members of the board who happen to be attending. Sometimes it's a little bit more structured in the agenda, sometimes it's not. But more than anything, it's a local group getting together, talking about all of the different challenges, best practices, or maybe they just have some questions about what's going on, and that is the opportunity. And we are always going to require that our regionals do that. So if they have questions about that, you can certainly ask them to contact me or Mary Cruz, but that's a part of this agreement. We always have giveaways. We sponsor them with $1,000, and we always have there's a fellows forum that is a part of this. Is that correct, Mary? Is that right?
Well, we've done a fellows forum for the last 2 Pacific regional conferences, and we've used a fellow from each of the chapters, and it's been really well received. And so what I'm going to do going forward is that I'm going to contact each co-chair for next year's regionals and offer to put together a fellows forum for them using the fellows in their regions. So
perfect.
More to come.
That's great. Then going forward, just one last thing on the giveaways that you see here too. We always give away a group of study materials for the CTSM. We give a webinar, a membership, and also a registration for conference. So those are really significant prizes, and they're always well received. Mary, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to cover some points on this slide.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tina. The chapter awards that we're referring to here is the Striving for Excellence program, as well as the Chapter President of the Year. So this year, just to briefly cover that, we have been looking at the criteria the last couple of years and realized that it definitely needed some updates. And we were happy to add social media as a category under communications. We also reclassified several of the criteria and moved them into different places where they made more sense, clarified a lot of the wording. We added more emphasis on leadership under the chapter management section, meaning that we, again, put more emphasis on the leadership training that your chapter does. How do you mentor those incoming volunteers and successors, and the types of offerings and mentorship that you provide for them, as well as we broke out membership, because obviously it is a very vital part of chapter management and recruiting and retaining volunteers, members. So we broke out the membership elements, those bullets, into its own section. And the process that we went through was not in a silo, was not done in a silo. We surveyed a lot of the chapters who have submitted in the last several years for their input, and then on some of the changes that they'd like to see happen. And then we, once the changes were applied from those chapter leaders that participated in our survey, then we formed a focus group and were able to send out the changes and the first draft, if you will, of the changes of the Striving for Excellence to the focus group, and they gave feedback. From there, we presented it to the National Board of Directors to get their approval before this all was disseminated out to the chapter. So since then, we've received lots of great feedback from the chapters on the changes that were made, and we're very happy about that. And again, why chapters should participate. This is the cornerstone of helping them in chapter management and excelling and becoming successful chapters. And many chapters, even if they don't submit, they use Striving for Excellence as a guideline, as a tool for planning their year, making sure that they're reaching goals that they should be reaching, and they really use it as a guide tool for them. So that's very exciting, and we get a lot of calls about it, and of course, we're always putting it out there to them. So we're hoping to see great participation this year from the chapters, and the deadline, of course, is coming up quick. It's May 3rd, so more to come on that.
Thank you, Mary. One more thing on why chapters should participate in this program. We know that there is a lot of work in putting together the whole submittal for Striving for Excellence. But for those chapters, even if they feel that there is no way they're going to get that award or be able to compete against some other chapters out there, the exercise of going through it really serves as a great audit for the chapter overall. It makes them go through financial efforts and what they're doing in terms of budgeting and what their balance sheets are. It makes them, review how they're managing the chapter. It makes them review what they're doing for their leaders, for their members, how they're giving back. In so many ways, everything that they need to be working on as a chapter, that Striving for Excellence, just the criteria alone is going to walk them through it. So if you ever happen to find yourself in a conversation where they're talking about Striving for Excellence, oh, it's not worth it, or I never win, the conversation doesn't always have to be about winning, although that's an awesome thing, and we want them to strive to get there. But really, if they're feeling that they can't win, well, then maybe that's even a better reason why they should go through the process to understand what it is they're doing well and maybe what it is that they need to work on a little bit more. So just something to consider if you happen to find yourself in a conversation with any of our chapter leaders.
I would encourage the fellows to push that.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Carla.
I would encourage the fellows to push the Striving for Excellence. It really is a good audit, and the fellows can help make sure that they get through that.
Absolutely, and we hope you will. And if you have any questions in particular about the Striving for Excellence program, or if you find that anyone is asking about, oh, I really would love to see different, different submittals or who won in the past, all of the winners are always posted in MySMPS. So the full PDF, and that's what we ask of from every submittal, whether it's the Striving for Excellence, the Chapter President of the Year, or maybe it's a program submittal or a special event submittal. All of those winning submittals are captured and put into the library for, for availability for anyone to take a look at and to help them get ideas, even if they're not putting together the program or the submittal itself, it gives them other ideas and that they might not have been thinking of. So it really is a great resource. So now, going on to rules and policies. I don't know how many of you have been in the conversation recently with any of your chapters regarding private inurement or benefit. I will tell you about several months ago, we conducted a chapter orientation, board member orientation with our legal counsel. And one of the items we covered in particular, because there was an announcement before that, was private inurement and private benefit. And I just want to give you a brief description of what this is in terms of an IRS, an Internal Revenue Code. It is described as no part of net earnings inures or should benefit any private shareholder or individual. And so that's kind of, it's a general statement, but I think the reality is, and this is what we're working on nationally as well, really understanding what this means, is that if you have a member of the board, or maybe you're recruiting volunteers that, oh, we'll be a part of the chapter, you know, you come in and we're going to give you a free conference and you're going to get to go to all the different events for free and we're going to give you this and just be a volunteer. Now, I may be exaggerating just a little bit, but I will tell you there are definitely chapters out there who that is one of the ways that they brought in some of their volunteers. Or even if that's not the way they brought it in, it has been a practice that may be out of their budget. They will always make sure that they've allotted a certain amount of money to send the president to the conference or benefit in some other way. What you need to remember, and there's all kinds of other information out here, and by the way, I have a recording of this in the Chapter Leaders Library for any of you to review if you want, or for them to re-review. But what they need to understand is that if this is not something that is offered to its members, or even other stakeholders, and then they have no right to really gain it on their own. The question in the litmus test, and this is what we're working with our legal counsel on right now, to get maybe an easier questions that they can ask themselves to help them understand whether something may be private inurement or benefit or not, working with us and really identifying that. But what they really need to think about is if I'm going, or if we're sending a member of the board to an event or to conference for free, what is the business of the chapter that is associated with that? Is this something that we just like, oh, we're going to make it up or just send them because we want to do it? Then that's probably private benefit and inurement, and it is not appropriate. However, if you have an individual who is going to an event and they're the ones who put everything together, they need to work with the host committee, or they need to put together the badges together, or whatever, maybe they even have a specific speaking part in that event. Then, if they're going for free, they're expected to do business there, and that is not private inurement. Just the way it would be for our own board of directors. We provide and pay for the expenses for our board to go to conference, but they are expected to work. And if you've ever gone to one of our conference, you know how busy they are. And that's why it would not be private benefit for them. So this presentation and this brief talk is not to go into all the details about it because it's so much more. But I know that there are chapters, and there are some leaders who are stressing out about this a little bit. They should not. This is really a common sense type of thing. Our legal counsel has already given us a draft policy that they can use, and they can modify accordingly. But if they can put it, another thing that they can think about, and if you're trying to guide them through any of this, if they're not willing to put this in front of the headlines of the newspaper or the Washington Post or whatever it may be, and they think that someone might not look very well on that, then chances are they're not supposed to be doing it. So that's my little statement on private inurement and benefit. And it's not a black and white issue. SNPS is not going to police this. I just know that IRS is becoming much more diligent in the way they're looking at nonprofit organizations. They're looking at exempt statuses. They're looking at all kinds of different things. So we are doing our due diligence in making sure everyone is well aware of what they can and cannot do. That said, going into bylaws and budgets, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. All of you are very well aware of these documents that really guide the management of a chapter overall. But our chapters have a lot of conversations about bylaws, and they cannot change their bylaws without getting approval from SMPS headquarters. Bylaws need to be clear, they need to be succinct, and they should not be long and detailed. And so if you ever come across a chapter who suddenly wants to expand upon all kinds of different descriptions of what their directors do and how they do it and when they do it, that is not advisable. So if you get yourself into a conversation and they really need assistance, please guide them to us, and we're more than happy to work with them. And another thing, this is just a point that I want to make just in terms of budgets, because I know many of our chapters, they have budgets, but some of them don't, and they don't really understand how to use them or what they're even for sometimes. The budget is simply an operational document. It's a management tool. If they don't have it, though, it's very difficult to be on course. Even if you have a great strategic plan or you have an understanding of what all your programs are going to be, if you don't have a budget in place, it's difficult to even understand who should be paying what or who has authority for what or under what circumstances you should be making decisions. I know all of you have worked very thoroughly with budgets in your own organizations, if not even with SMPS. But it's just an important message to get across for them to understand what a budget really is, how they should be working with it, and that they should have one. There are still a handful of chapters out there that I know do not have budgets, and it is a problem because it really puts them in a position where they're not sure what to do from week to week. So if you can reiterate anything, if you find yourself in that position talking to your volunteers, please make sure even the simplest budget is going to help them out. The national staff contacts, this is the whole group right now. This came literally from our webpage. So these under communications and marketing, and we have other information we can send them to. But there isn't one of us that's not willing to help them out with whatever needs they have. So the more they get to know us, the more comfortable we hope they are in asking us for support. We really are here to help them out, and we want to help them out. So this is just to remind you of who we are. And by the way, Antonio Payne, right here, he's our new controller. He just started just over a month ago. And Alexandra Bradley is a new marketing communications manager with our communications team. And we're really thrilled to have them on board. And Carla, I'm going to give this to you. Carla? Mary, can you hear me?
Yes, Tina, I can hear you. I see Carla is unmuted. She might have muted herself.
All right. Carla, can you hear us?
Oh, Tina, hi. I'm having terrible problems. I keep getting cut off and losing you completely. So we'll try again. Yeah. Okay, so Chapter Champion Toolkit. Okay, so you've already received a whole bunch of stuff from me. A lot of what Tina has shown you is what you have. The one thing that you don't have yet is the chapter management manual because it just got updated. So as soon as that's ready, we'll send that out to you. Part 2 just went out yesterday, so you should have everything you need. It's like a fellow in a box. So you're ready to go. Go ahead, Tina, the next one. So a letter from Kevin Hebelwaith went out just yesterday to all the chapter presidents, the presidents-elect, and the past presidents, asking them to take advantage of SMPS's most valuable and untapped resource, which is the fellows. I'll be introducing the program formally next week at PLS, so that all of the presidents-elect will be able to hear about it firsthand. And your job is to follow up between May 1st and 10th. I've scheduled 3 roundup teleconference so we can compare notes, but if that proves too cumbersome, we can use the new My SMPS to record our progress. So I'll let you know how that's going to go. Let me give you a little bit more detail in terms of the first steps. As I said, start by calling the president-elect, which you have their email information that I sent you in the first packet. Engage. When I'm at PLS next week, I'm going to hand out a list of all the chapter champions so that they will know who their champion is. And they'll be told to expect an email from you between May 1st and 10th, so don't make me look bad. You're going to start your outreach with the President-elect because their term will be starting soon, so they're probably more likely to be open to some advice and assistance. Plus, it'll still be semi-fresh in their minds because of PLS. Ideally, you'll be able to meet with the current president, past president as well, and eventually become a resource to the entire board. A word of caution. I don't know about you, but when I was chapter president, I thought I knew everything and I had everything controlled and I didn't need any help. Type A, you know. I'm guessing that most of the chapter board members feel the same way today. So you can't rush in there and tell them what you're going to do. You need to help them see what you can do for them. And an easy way to get in is to offer to do a seminar pro bono. If you help them generate revenue that they weren't planning on, you'll be an instant hero. Whatever you end up working out with them, please develop a contract of sorts to document the planned initiatives you'll be helping them with and then distribute it to the entire board. And send me a copy too so that I can add to our list of 33 ways fellows can help their chapters. Speaking of which, next slide, thank you. So Julie, Melissa, Lori, and I came up with this long list, 33. I don't know how we happened upon that number, but the point is the number of ways you can help is limitless. Remember the Donald and think big, and just let me know what's going on so we can add to the list. And we want to capture those success stories and put them into the Chapter Management Update newsletter so that we can show good examples to the other chapters. So Tina, I think you have a little bit more stuff that they should know, right?
Yeah, just a couple of different items. And can you hear me, Carla?
I can, yes.
Okay, just want to make sure maybe some others might not be able to hear me either, but I think this is fine.
No one has, I'm just letting you know, raised their hand or sent me a text or chat that they can't hear you or see the screen. So I think you're good.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just a couple of other items to be aware of. Next week, during PLS, we're going to be introducing the role of the Society Liaison. And Paula Ryan, as our chapter at-large delegate, is going to be heading this effort up. The idea behind the Society Liaison, and again, this is a communication item, really, but this individual is going to be someone we're going to ask each of our chapters to designate. And most likely we're going to ask them to designate their past president as the Society Liaison. And this will be the individual who we are hoping will be the primary point of contact of all that is going on with SMPS headquarters and throughout all of our membership. So if there are new initiatives that are going on, this is something that this individual will know very well. They will understand the ins and outs of what happened with the environmental scan, what we're doing with it. They'll understand new services and new products that we may be offering. They will just understand all of the different things that the chapters, and not just chapter leaders, this is really many of the things that you're going to be working on, but more the membership as a whole. So they can kind of be that individual who maybe does that 1 or 2 minute SMPS commercial to talk about this is what's going on with SMPS, not just at the chapter, but with the National Society overall. We know that our chapter leaders are very busy and they have so many different things on their plate. So this is another opportunity to really support that communication with all that is going on and all the different new initiatives. So this will be discussed next week at PLS, that the whole thing will be launched. There is no dictating who can be that liaison. The recommendation is that will be the past president, simply because we know that sometimes that individual doesn't have as much on their plate, but the chapter themselves may determine that someone else is more appropriate, and that's going to be the discussion. So we just want to know that someone's at the table talking about all of these different things, and that little messages, things we're working on, are not lost. As we get more information on that, we will make sure that we share that with you. And just so you know, anything new that is going on, regardless, with all the different things that we're asking you to do now, I promise you, you will all be in the loop with all of those different initiatives. Regarding business from headquarters staff and board members, just quickly, so you understand how this works, we are trying to be much more strategic in the type of support we're providing our chapters. And that starts from the very beginning with the budget process. So we have all kinds of tools available to us, and what in terms of the feedback that we get from financial reports, the educational reports from our chapters. We have a sense of who's doing well, who's kind of having some challenges, and when we sort that out, as well as with the other conversations that we've had with lots of different chapters throughout the year, we can start building and identifying the chapters that really need our support, who have that red flag. And we're building our budgets accordingly. And that budget means, what are we going to allocate for board travel? Who should be going where? What about staff? What do we need to do? What about strategic planning? Are students involved in this? So especially starting last year, we were much more thoughtful in identifying exactly what chapters are going to be visited and by whom. So if you're ever asked that question, we have more information for you as well going forward. With just in the process of our budgeting process for the next year right now. But we're happy to give you more information. And even if there is a chapter that's not on the list, chances are we'll still be able to work with them. But there might be different ways that we might want to reach out to them. But we want to make sure that we are helping those that are really having some challenges, and they know that we're here for them, and we have a budget to support it. Regarding the environmental scan, I think many of you, as I look at this list of attendees, we're part of the town hall meeting, and we had our consultant do a quick debrief of the results of the scan itself. And Kevin talked about, now, what does that all mean going forward? What are we going to do with this information? I'm not going to attempt to go into the detail there. It's all available on the link that you see right in front of you. It's on YouTube, and you can watch it if you want more detail, or you can certainly share this information with the chapters as well if they didn't have a chance to see it. The one thing I want to make sure that all of you know is that there are two parts of this town hall meeting, and the next one is going to be after PLS. The first town hall meeting regarding the environmental scan, the debrief, and that information were for all of our members, in giving them the information geared toward them. But now we want to make sure that we have a separate meeting with our chapter leaders so they understand what it means to them and what it means to their constituents and members. And we also have some great data that our consultants pulled out for us that can be refined and filtered by chapter. So I have a global national scope of the environmental scan in terms of the national organization, but I can take all of that information and break it down into Boston. I can break it down into Sacramento, or I can break it down into, whatever, maybe Los Angeles. So we want to make sure that the chapters know that that's available to them, and how do they compare based to what the national environmental scan results say. So that's something that you might want to share with them if they don't already know. We've shared this information with them in a variety of ways. We still have a lot of follow-up work to do with them, and you're very much a part of that, but that's just the other message regarding the environmental scan. Mary, before I go any further, are there any questions or hands raised?
Nope, I just went through the list. There are none at this time.
Okay. And I think that's the end of my presentation. Carla, anything more?
Well, this is the final slide, but I think it's probably the most impressive. We have 56 chapters, and look at all the fellows that stepped up to be a chapter champion. It's heartwarming. It's really impressive to me that everybody's willing to do this. We have several people that are doing more than one chapter, and in fact, Marion contacted me right beforehand saying that she would take on Sacramento and Vegas, baby, because I had those on my list because they didn't have a fellow there. So she's willing to help. And if any of you want to get involved in other chapters, I mean, we don't have to have one champion per chapter. It's just we wanted to make sure that we had at least one champion per chapter. So we also still have 3 positions open. We still need St. Louis, South Florida, and Wichita. So if anybody there does work in those areas, let me know. So thank you all again so much for tuning in today and for stepping up to participate in this new program. I became passionate about giving the fellows a true purpose that would engage them in a meaningful way after I found my own. It started by reaching out to the board of directors of my chapter with a suggestion to bring our 5 fellows together to do a program that I called the Fellows Forum. 12 forums later, and we've re-energized the chapter and the membership, and we've generated so much revenue and profit that we are awarding our 3rd annual Fellows Scholarship next week. But the best part of all of this has been the opportunity to reconnect with my fellows. We are having a blast dispensing advice and sharing our experiences and swapping stories with marketers at all levels. We're not strangers in our chapter anymore. We've made a real difference, and it feels good. And all of you have that to look forward to, and I can't wait to hear all you're doing during our first Breakfast of Champions Roundup call on the 31st. The Chapter Champions program is a big idea, but it's up to all of you to make it happen. So, you know, I appreciate so much that you're willing to try, and we'll work through whatever challenges there are together, and we'll share our successes together. So if anybody has any questions, now would be the time. Otherwise,
Carla,
we will thank you
this
for
is
your
Mary.
time.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Mary. I did have a couple of questions. Craig Park just offered to take Wichita, so we can add him to the list. He said he has some business there.
Yay, Craig, thank you.
Rhodes White and Peter Line have a hand raised. So, Rhodes, I have unmuted you. You have your hand raised?
Yes, I would just like a copy of this so that I have it in hand when I go and talk with our president-elect, and then also know who's doing which other states.
Sure. Rhodes, and for the rest of you, this webinar is being recorded, and when it is through, we'll compile it and we will put it on YouTube. So that'll be available for everybody, and certainly for those who weren't able to make this call. So it will be done within the next few hours.
We'll send you it's a link to the YouTube as well as the PowerPoint presentation in case you want to print it out. So certainly we'll make that available. And Tina, the YouTube link, you're going to put where on my SMPS? That was a question by Tom Smith. Where exactly in my SMPS?
That is a good question. I can put this in, do we have a fellows group?
We do. We don't have a Chapter Champions one set up yet. That's one of my next tasks.
Okay. Well, here's what we can do. This is really very easy. I have the full list of this group, so I will send a direct email to you with the link, the YouTube link, and then we'll determine and let you know where it might be put online. But since this is it's not a crazy list, we can go ahead and just send it to you directly.
Great. I have one more question from Peter Line. He has his hand raised. Peter, I've unmuted you.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Peter.
Okay, great. Like Rhodes, I'd like to have a copy of this as well. And also, I noticed on your list that George is not listed. Oh, no, I see Betty. I see Atlanta. Okay. I correct myself.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great. Okay, well, I don't see any other hands raised, and that's it. Craig, like I said, Craig Park did send a message that he will take Wichita.
Yay, thanks, Craig.
Yay.
That's it.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks, Tina and Mary. Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.